Main character syndrome. You know from my work that I provide you with unrivaled world-class information about narcissism, explaining to you the way that my kind function, operate, think and behave, explaining to you the dynamic that we have with our victims, why we choose our victims, why we target people, how we target people, what you can do about it. I have 3,900 videos that contain so much information about so many different facets of narcissism that I'd encourage you always to search amongst my archives to make a determination so that you can find material not only that will interest and entertain you, but will invariably save your life and your livelihood. One of the issues that often arises in all of this is the failure of so many people to recognize narcissism when it's coming up and slapping them about the face, both literally and figuratively. So many people are unaware of narcissism, notwithstanding the reach of my work, and the fact is that we see it on a repeated basis, that there are so-called experts talking about instances of behaviours and relationships who are actually talking about a narcissist and perhaps a narcissism victim, and they don't see it. This, of course, is misleading. It means that lots of terminology and phrases and words spring up which essentially euphemize the behaviour of the narcissist. Of course, this is jolly good news in one respect, because for my kind it means we can get on and do these things and people don't see it for what it is. Often it normalises the behaviour, causing it to be euphemised in a way so that people don't sit up and take notice of what is actually going on. This allows us to fit in, and chameleons that we are, we're always going to embrace that. Rather than calling it for what it is, it's dressed up with some trendy or fancy term, which takes away the impact of what's actually occurring. And this has happened once again with the arrival of something called main character syndrome. An article that comes from Inspire and their human stories, written by Senin, tells us as follows: again and again, TikTok has become the new Bible of trendy buzzwords for Gen Zs out there. According to the TikTok reference, the term main character is always associated with people who think that the world revolves around them as they seek attention through pretentious actions. Who might that sound like? Now remember, just because somebody seeks attention through pretentious actions and thinks the world revolves around them doesn't, just on that basis alone, make them a narcissist. As I make it very clear, in order to make a determination as to whether somebody is a narcissist, we must look at a range of behaviour over a sustained period of time, across a range of fields, to a strict evidential standard. Somebody who thinks the world revolves around them, that's a narcissistic indicator. Somebody who's pretentious, that's a narcissistic indicator. And an attention seeker, that is a narcissistic indicator. So we have three of them, but of themselves they don't make a person a narcissist. The article continues by stating, the main character syndrome is well portrayed in short meme videos by TikTok user @DaisyGorgeous, don't know who that person is, with funny main character occasions he does to the tune of Lana Del Rey's Mariner's Apartment Complex. His attempt to portray the main character traits we often see in movies is spot on. However, how is exactly the main character syndrome seen in psychology? According to Kate Rosenblatt, a therapist and senior clinical manager at Talkspace, main character syndrome refers to identifying as the protagonist in your own life story. Again, narcissistic indicators. However, the main character syndrome is not an actual mental health diagnosis, good to point that out, as it only exists in pop culture with the influence of movies. But the term main character always refers to someone who is self-centered, narcissistic trait, believes the people around them live to support them, sense of entitlement, narcissistic trait, using of people, and views themselves as the main character of their life, self-absorbed, narcissistic trait. Kate Rosenblatt and other experts break down 4 key red flags that can tell you whether you, inadvertently, are the main character in the group. Number 1, they feel like everything revolves around them and their problems. If you often feel like you are the center of attention and have people around you as only your supporting roles, you might have yourself a tiny hint of exuding some main character energy. Someone who radiates the main character syndrome often thinks or sees themselves as someone they imagine or want to be like. Grandiosity, magical thinking, or is pretending to be the lead of their own story or self-created tale, according to Cynthia Catchings, a therapist for Talkspace. 2, they think their life is perfect. Cynthia Catchings said that someone who projects themselves as the main character often presents their life through rose-coloured lenses, magical thinking, that portray a false image of themselves in front of people they want to impress, facade management, veneer management. They also tend to constantly build their online persona by carefully curating their photos that give off the vibe they want people to see. Facade management. The problem with this trait is that they overly control their image and may lash out at anyone who contradicts it. Possible ignited fury, exhibiting response to potential threat to control. 3, not good at taking criticism. Be careful. People with main character syndrome often find it troublesome to take any criticism or a joke. Potential threat to control. We can't deny that living in a healthy circle gives us the occasion to be criticised for good matters. However, people with main character syndrome find it hard to distinguish and digest advice as insults, that they think any kind of criticism is always based on jealousy. Paranoia. Potential threat to control. 4, romanticising hardships. Everyone knows that in every movie, the main character is always faced with an obstacle or hardship that can develop their character until fulfillment is found at the end of the storyline. Yes, but it's a movie, it's fiction. Well, a happy ending is always there when it comes to movies. Apparently, they're also there in massage parlours. Not that I know anything about that, of course. However, someone with the main character syndrome tends to think that their hardship is something that they would romanticise. Instead of looking for a solution that will eventually, indeed, develop their character as an individual, they tend to dwell in struggle and daydream about the happy ending. This, of course, may be false expectations, magical thinking, shirking accountability. The article concludes, the main character syndrome is a fairly new concept, and as of now, not much research has been done to learn more about it. However, if someone develops the mentioned red flags of main character syndrome, they can easily slip into narcissism, which further can harm their mental health even more. Of course, it fails to remark upon the impact that a narcissist has on everybody else, but you'll notice that it's only right at the end that there is this almost glib addition of they can easily slip into narcissism. Well, the fact is, the individual may well already be a narcissist, because many of the things that are described there are the red flags of the narcissist. But it hasn't been sufficiently emphasized, and the difficulty here is that many of these things will be dressed up as someone going, oh no, he's just got main character syndrome. No, he's actually a narcissist. But by calling it something else, you're deflecting from the problems that are arising. Instead of coming up with these concepts of main character syndrome, it would be far better for the red flags of a narcissist to be identified and explained as they are, for example, in my book, Red Flag. This kind of article misses the mark largely because it fails to identify the fact that the many things that it's mentioning may well demonstrate that somebody's a narcissist and causes it to seem as if they're just really more caught up in themselves. Somebody who's just caught up in themselves probably isn't a narcissist, and therefore this concept of main character syndrome is unhelpful with regard to characterization, as it makes it clear there's no psychological definition associated with it. But it would be far better avoiding such phrases as this and utilizing those red flags, which are clear ones of narcissistic indicators, to say what they are and what those can actually mean. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.